Hello everyone, Parse7 here, back again with another Bloons TD Battles video, and this strat we're retrying this time is Dart Farm Ace. Now, DFA was a meta strat back in Battles 1. If you haven't played Battles 1, if you haven't seen any videos, basically the general gist of the strat I got from watching people play it is basically use Dart for early game popping power, then, farms were to generate money, and if you had to go late game, you used Ace. Ace was a pretty decent late game tower in my opinion back in Battles 1. Spectre was incredibly good mid game in Battles 1, and Ground Zero was just for like late game, like ZOMGs and BFBs and whatnot. You need to Ground Zero the insides, as Super Monkey Fan Club couldn't handle all the balloon insides. So I'm going to be trying out DFA back in Battles 2. Now, keep in mind this is DFA before, the 1.06 buff. If you don't know, farms are getting a pretty decent buffs. I think one of the best buffs is like the initial base price is getting decreased down to like, I think like $9.90 from what now is like over $1,000. Now, keep in mind, I'm not really familiar of how to, properly play this strat back in Battles 2. Of course, in Battles 1, you were able to start with the farm because you couldn't actually send eco until round 2, and you could actually survive with just like it was like what, an O2 dart, I think it was. But here you definitely need a spike a bullet, so the earliest you can probably get your farm in 1.05 is like round 4ish, round 3ish. Again, I'm thinking that you probably need to delay your farm until after round 5, as spaced whites is something, Spikeable does struggle against, and I have lost a few matches due to, like greeting too hard and not actually getting proper defense. But even like when I do try to get proper defense, I really just can't think of, what would I even get for spaced whites. I tried getting crossbow, that really didn't work. More Spikeable seemed to help, but like on shorter maps like Koru, like 3 Spikeables and a crossbow, can't handle spaced whites. So really, it is just kind of curious to, I am just kind of curious to see, like, how would you even handle spaced whites? Because it is something it is struggle against. Maybe a Juggernaut and a Spikeable, but of course, Juggernaut is kind of expensive to be getting this early on in the game, especially since you want to be able to, farm as just as hard as possible. Now, I don't really think, Ground Zero Micro will be too important late game, as, Flying Fortress and Sky Shredder are pretty good tier 5s, I have heard. I haven't heard anything about Flying Fortress, but that's kind of understandable since Flying Fortress, like, in total costs over 100k. So I can't imagine, too many people are actually using Flying Fortress, but, I have heard good things about Sky Shredder, and I don't think Sky Shredder is getting touched in the next update, so that would be pretty good. Now, of course, in the early game, it really just is kind of, just farming as hard as possible. Now, if your opponent is pressuring you in any way, it is kind of difficult to, farm efficiently. So as you can see, I am sending spaced eco. I sent space blues at the start of the game, then I went to space greens. Why is that? Well, you need spaced eco to really, to help save up money for a farm. You are going to have to rely a bit on eco until you're able to get like at least 200 farms, and I feel like that's a good amount where you can just stop sending eco. That at that point I have usually have like 500 to 600 eco depending on how hard my opponent is pressuring me. And, by that point, the only spaced eco options you have available is really just like really purples and zebras, and I don't really think you really want to be sending those. So my strategy that I came up with for DFA so far is, well, just a Spikeable into a farm if I can. If not, I usually go 2 Spikeables into a farm. Once I get a few farms down, I'll end up selling my Spikeables for a 402 Juggernaut. 402 mainly because I need to beat Camo Leads. Now this guy went for a Druid of the Storm, which if you play BT6, that causes terrible regrow farms. It definitely is not a tower you want to get this early on in the game. That's probably a tower you only really want to get once you're going for Superstorm. So this next match here is a perfect example of, it really is a bit difficult to farm if your opponent is punishing you. Of course, you know what that is. I'm assuming, it is intentional. He does kind of realize that I am trying to farm. He does send me the facepalm emote into a waving emote. I'm assuming he thought I was actually gonna start with Dartling, but nope, starting with Spike-a-Pole. So it is, this strategy is very map dependent, I have noticed. On maps like, you know, Plutonium Mines and Koru, this strat is probably it's really bad if you ask me. Koru is kind of obvious, you know, it's a very short map, and there isn't a lot of space for farms. Plutonium Mines is kind of a similar thing, but you know, the problem lies in that there really isn't many space for farms. And you know, it really isn't a ace friendly map. Something I've noticed is that it's hard to fit like aces on the map to where I can really only find like one spot to where I can consistently place. And even then, it's kind of not pixel perfect, I'd say, but it really just kind of is annoying to actually get that spot down. So of course that's not very good for ace micro. You know, you really don't want to rely on, you know, like a pixel perfect placement in order to actually, you know, succeed. So this was after, you know, I played DFA for like a few more matches. So the strat I've kind of, I guess, devised for, I guess, just fast balloons in general is to, you know, ace. Really, I just need to knock down the whites and just fast balloons into like, I don't know, like pinks or whatnot. I really just need to knock it down as much as possible, and I've noticed that, you know, Bomber Race is fantastic at that. Of course, you know, Bomber Race is, you know, $900 just for the upgrade alone. And you know, and again, Bomber Race is also map dependent because, you know, the targeting options may not be the best. Sometimes you do have to get center path, but you really don't want to go center path, as you know, it won't drop the bombs as often. And in general, I really don't use ace too often when I'm actually going DFA, surprisingly. Something I've noticed is that, you know, ace isn't really, I guess, it does have some good mid-game options. You know, Spectre and ODS would probably be pretty good, but you know, before that, there really isn't much reason to use ace. Never Miss is pretty good, but of course Never Miss can't see camo, so if you over rely on that, you can like sort of forget that, you know, hey, you need camo detection. Of course, if you do get Never Miss with camo detection, you know, you do notice that, you know, Never Miss is so much weaker that it really just is not worth using, and it really can't handle, you know, most camo rushes, like really any camo rushes in general, if I think about it. So really, ace, really in this strat, it's not really useful early game. It might be useful for knocking down some fast balloons or strong balloons, like, you know, blacks and whatnot, into like, I guess, more manageable amounts. But even then, as you can see here, it's not really the best at doing that. So really, I am just kind of thinking, you know, what would even be the best like opening to do here to where I can actually farm efficiently and not, you know, leak a ton of lives to, you know, space blacks or space white. As you can see, I start spamming trip darts here because I'm gonna start leaking a lot of lives. I do try placing Oben in the back, and you know, I realizing I am spending kind of a lot of money. But as you can see here, I am spending a lot more on eco as I did in the first match, simply because, you know, since my opponent is pressuring me, I can't really get as many farms as I would like up, so I have to spend a lot more on defense, which in turn means I have to spend a lot more on eco. And keep in mind, I do eventually have to get a Juggernaut, so instead of going for a farm, I had to go for a Juggernaut. I end up selling the Spike-a-Pole for a Juggernaut because, if you don't know, Juggernaut pops 2 layers of balloon, whereas Spike-a-Pole only just pops 1. Now, another thing I've noticed is that Juggernaut has massively increased projectile speed from Spike-a-Pole. I'm not sure if that works the same as in BTD6. I never really go Juggernaut for really any reason, because, you know, the tier 5 Ultra Jug is kind of meh, very map dependent, and even then, it's not like really meant for, I guess, those strong mob class balloons. But yeah, the massively increased projectile speed is, you know, pretty good. Something else I've noticed is that, you know, Juggernaut balls really won't benefit a lot from being able to bounce off walls, because most maps don't have any walls, except for, like, you know, in the wall, which is, you know, obvious. But like, yeah, this is something I noticed, is that I can't imagine, you know, Ultra Jug being too good, since you can't really bounce it off of any walls, so you can't take advantage of that. So he tries sending a little camo purple, so I assumed that he thought, you know, I had like no camo detection, but of course, you know, I went bottom path. I decided to prevent him from, you know, sending another rush, so I just got like a few triple dart monkeys down. Now I could go crossbow, but of course crossbow does pop the balloon, But I feel like that's not really good for group popping power. I do think triple darts is probably better for group popping power, which is you generally need. So this guy's trying to send camo rainbows. I send some regen rainbows at him. Why? Because, well, Moral Glaives does struggle a bit against regen balloons, but of course with boost he was able to defend that. So I am trying to use Ace as much as possible. This is why I ended up getting Never Miss. You know, if I wasn't trying to actually level up Ace, I probably would just spent that money on farms, but you know, leveling up Ace, I noticed, can definitely be the slowest out of these 3 towers, simply because, well, like I said before, Ace doesn't have much of a use early game. Mid game options really is relying on SMFC to beat, you know, fortified BFBs and below. Of course, once fortified ZOMGs and above come, you're definitely going to need Ground Zero or a Spectre. Of course, probably maybe ODS is pretty good, but again, I don't have ODS unlocked. I'm just gonna straight rush Ground Zero. He tries sending me a Moab along with some camo purples, but you know, triple darts are actually, you know, fairly good at shutting down most rushes. He ends up getting a Spike Storm in order to beat that Moab, which, you know, as soon as I saw that, I was just thinking to myself, you know, I'm just gonna drain him. You know, that's how I'm gonna win. He can't infinitely buy and resell Spike Storm, especially if he's going eco. So the more I just send, you know, I even sound like the Gwendolyn laughing emote. He even tries to get turbocharged because he probably can't afford another Spike Storm. But again, he's gonna have to keep buying and reselling turbocharge because, well, it's ability based, and so he's already, like, you know, leaking lives because he had to sell Shimmer in order to get camos. I tried to send some camos to hopefully get past his Shimmer, but unfortunately no luck. So here I am just like kind of just slowly draining my opponent by just sending constant Moabs. And you know, that is the power of farms. You know, you just have a lot of money to just sending your opponent. I am even like force him to stop ecoing simply because I just keep sending so many Moabs at him. Now I think that, you know, kind of is a problem with, you know, just eco. If you have to constantly buy and resell an ability in order to beat just a regular Moab, he probably could have gotten like a press and maybe like another Glaive Ricochet in the back, and he probably could have easily have beaten it. Now he tries sending fortified Moabs my way. I wasn't really too sure about how good I'd be able to defend it, so I just got an SMFC just in case. And so as you can see, he's really is struggling against my fortified Moabs. I ended up getting my Juggernaut back just in case, you know, he decided to send camo leads at me. So I ended up selling the wrong Dart Monkey. I was planning to sell my SMFC in order for more farms. So he decides to retaliate with a fortified BFB. Now, unfortunately for me, I didn't actually buy my farms back, so I did have enough money for a SMFC. He sends pinks afterwards, I'm assuming to, I guess just like really hurt. I ended up getting a fighter plane. If he would have sent something like, I don't know, maybe camo purples, he probably could have, or camo leads actually, because I had no camo lead popping power at this time, as again I was trying to really focusing on defending this BFB. So I activate the ability, and of course just hope and pray that that's enough to be fortified BFB. You know, and it probably would have been enough if I had boosted, but I didn't actually boost, and I ended up dying to ceramics. Now of course there is that one glitch where you can abuse to where SMFC can actually shoot out Juggernaut balls. That really wouldn't have helped me much here, simply because, well, the only thing that really gives, like, functionally is extra Pierce, and you know, Pierce isn't really necessary with this strategy. So again, there's no point. It's fun, but you know, really has no practical use. So this next match is on Bloontonia Mines. Well, why Bloontonia Mines? Well, because like I said before earlier in the video, Bloontonia Mines is a terrible map for this strategy. And you'll see, you know, why here. It really is difficult to fit farms on this map. I really, at most, I was able to fit was 2. And of course, you know, 2 farms isn't really ideal, or just, I guess, really enough farms to like really farm efficiently. Now, I guess on maps like this, you'd probably want to switch up your farming strategy. You probably want to rush banks or IMF loans. I have heard that IMF loan is pretty decent. Now, I haven't fully figured out the strategy on this map because I just always kind of skip it whenever I am doing this strategy. Now, he ended up sending me a heart. I'm assuming it's because he assumed I was going Dartling because I was slow to place mine, but I ended up going spike a pole. This is a common theme I will see among players. When I do have some trouble, fitting spike poles in the maps I want. This spike pole spot isn't too bad. The crystal is sort of in the way, but it's not that terrible. I still do need to figure out the start I do want to work on for this map, as I feel like I could do a better spike pole start, but I'm really, not really sure where. So, but this spot will have to do for now. So I do want to talk about, what I think of this strategy, and I think, it's incredibly fun to do in my opinion. It is definitely the most fun I've had actually playing Battles 2 in a long time. Ice NG Wizard, of course, wasn't, it wasn't too bad of a strat. It was able to get me up to Moab Pit. Got a nice looking medal, if I do say so myself. But I think the ZOMG one's a little better. Hopefully I can get there. At least get to ZOMG Super Gnome by the end of the season. Maybe Hall of Masters if I'm lucky. But anyways, I do think that it's a really fun strat to play. Of course, I don't have all tier 4s unlocked. I really only have Ace tier 3s unlocked. At the time, I did not have all Dart Monkey tier 4s. I was just missing Sharpshooter, but I don't really use Sharpshooter too much. I find that it's a bit too expensive and, not really worth it. I feel like I'd much rather save that money or spend it towards more farms, or just save for like a SMFC instead of a Sharpshooter. It is a fun strategy, to do. It is different and it is, a bit of a challenge. I do like the challenge of, trying to afford farms while my opponent is pressuring me, if my opponent decides to pressure me. Of course, it just really is a nice change of pace. Farms in this game, in 1.05 aren't really competitive and are a bit too weak. Farms, unfortunately, are outclassed by, just snipers and Druid of the Jungles. Of course, farms should at least be competitive with those two options, but unfortunately 1.05 it's just not. But unfortunately, Bandana Farm is getting a massive buff in 1.06, so that is something to look forward to. This strategy will be even stronger once 1.06 comes out, mainly because you can actually micro ground 0 now. But I guess if you are wanting to micro ground 0, you probably don't want to choose Plutonium Mine. So yeah, overall it is a pretty fun strategy. In 1.05 it's not too overly competitive. You could probably get to you probably could get to all the masters with this strategy if you just, I guess, have all the tier 4s unlocked, because I have no DDT defense, which sucks right now, and I won't have any DDT defense until I get ground 0. DDTs are a bit of a struggle with this strategy, since really the only DDT defense you have is just the tier 4 aces. Of course, none of the tier 4 Dart Monkeys can actually hit, leads. So, or I guess, Juggernaut can, but, spamming Juggernaut will not help you against DETs. And, my opponent gets a Bloon Trap, which is a bit curious, as I'm going farms, so he's not going to get as much money as, before. If I were him, I probably would have just sold Bloon Trap and just have gotten just more towers. Because right now, his defense is kind of terrible. He's greeting a bit too hard. Something I learned with going with Engineer is that you don't want to get Bloon Trap before round 10. You want to spend as much money as you can on defense, as right now his only defense is like ices. I believe those are 022 ices. And 022 ice, that does struggle a lot against just regular camo balloons. Round 12 is coming up and this guy has no camo defense. If I wanted to, I could just send zebras his way and have just really screwed up his day, but I did want to get XP towards Ace. So again, I didn't really rush him. So I really don't get Ace for a long time, simply because, again, fitting Ace on this map is a bit annoying. In preparation for round 12, I sell my Juggernauts to get 402 jugs. Now, you'll see me really struggle to fit Ace on this map. I'm trying so hard to actually find a spot to where it actually works. I try and I end up giving up because I had to collect bananas. Something I feel like should be in the game is banana farmers. And now before you say, oh well, just use Bottom Path Village, I would just say that Bottom Path Village, Monkey Apples is terrible, and you really don't want to use farm and village in the same strategy, as again that means you only have one tower to defend. Of course you could go bottom path farms, but I feel like top path farms shouldn't really be invalidated simply just because there are no farmers in the game. Like, even though bottom path even though farmers are in BTD6, bottom path farm isn't, just completely outclassed, mainly because, it gives lives and whatever. But, I feel like maybe that should be a change in, battles too. Maybe, marketplace gives farms and, they add farmers instead. I really do feel like farmers should be in the game, but of course that's just. I am getting a center path bomber race in the front, not for lead popping power, but just to really just knock down any strong balloons. So now on round 15, I usually start trying to set up my Super Monkey fan club just in case they do decide to rush with the Moab on. I forgot what round was unlocked actually, but also just in prep for round 20. Round 20 is a round you're gonna have to watch out for because of course you do need Moab popping power. So my opponent actually is setting up his Moab defense too, as he is getting engineers down. I'm assuming those are, or at the time I assume they were going to be 220 engineers, because well, that's really the best Moab popping power you had. And it doesn't seem like this guy like unlocked anything higher than Bloon Trap. I feel like he'd like immediately rush Bloon Trap and then just kind of went for it. I decided to like rush this guy with Moab simply because his Moab defense right now is awful. He sends a Moab at me, but again, I set Moabs really first, so I wasn't really too worried. I ended up getting a SMFC just just to see how strong it is, and it's pretty decent if I do say so myself. It is a kind of a fun ability to use, although it is a bit expensive and I did have to sell a farm for that. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, join Discord. The link is in the description. We'll be posting more DFA content, especially when 1.06 comes out. Hopefully when 1.06 comes out, I'll actually have Ground Zero unlocked and I'll actually be able to beat DDTs for once.